I'm not saying there's one all-encompassing trick to sounding great on the guitar, but if there was, it would be voice leading. And I'm not talking about voice leading in the classical music theory sense where you have all these rules on where you can move certain intervals and all that. All I mean is that when moving from one chord to another, you want the voices or notes in the first chord to move closely to the voices or notes in the next chord. Trust me when I tell you, when you start implementing this, your playing will change completely for the better. And this will get us out of the habit of having to jump all the way from down here to up here to hit a certain chord, or vice versa, which doesn't usually sound very good. So what we're going to do is play through a chord progression using triads on only one set of strings, moving as little as possible. Still hitting the triads of each chord and staying on that set of strings, but with as little movement as we possibly can. So I'm going to do this with the chord progression I wrote for the song Home by Fortuno, which is my band, which is what you heard at the beginning of this video. Check us out, by the way. I'll link our Spotify below. So this song is in the key of F sharp major, a nice friendly key for all of us. And the first chord is an F sharp major. So a lot of people would play F sharp major here, this bar chord. What I'm going to do is, instead of playing that full chord, I'm just going to take the top 3 strings, the G through the high E string, and play the notes from that chord on those strings. What I'm doing is playing an F sharp triad here. Those 3 notes, believe it or not, are all you need for this to be an F sharp major chord. For those of you who like to think in intervals, you have the 3rd, the 5th, and the root. So we're going to start here, and we're going to stick with the G through the high E string for all of this. The next chord in the progression is a D sharp minor, which some of you may be like, oh, D sharp minor, way up here, right? Well, jumping from here all the way to here, that's a pretty big jump. That's not great voice leading, right? Some people may think, oh, D sharp minor, maybe here. Still a fairly big jump. We actually have an available D sharp minor triad right here. You'll notice that's super close to this F sharp chord, right? It's literally one note different, which is great. That's great voice leading. So while you're doing this, if you can, try to locate where your root is. So if we're doing F sharp, where's your F sharp? I know my F sharp's on top. For the D sharp minor, I know my D sharp's on the G string here. That will help you for a variety of reasons, but mainly to stay grounded and know where you are as you're doing this. The next chord is C sharp major, which I have right here. You also have a C sharp major here, which is pretty close by. This one's technically a little bit closer, so I'm going to use that. C sharp on the B string here. Then we have a B major 7. We're just going to think of this as B major. Ignore the 7s for now. There's B major triad. Here's B. Next we have G sharp major. That's the closest one there. Next we're going back to F sharp major. Here we're actually closer to this F sharp major triad than the other one. And then there's a little like B over F sharp chord here. And back to F sharp. And that's the whole progression. So I went through this pretty quick just to show you how it works. But in reality, when you're doing it on your own for other songs, other chord progressions, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer. And that's okay. It's actually good if you take the time to really try to visualize all these shapes. Because as soon as you're working with smaller triad shapes, it gets increasingly harder to visualize what's going on. So I'm going to go through this one more time, and I'm going to relate each of these triad shapes to a bigger caged shape, or any bigger chord shape. I like to use the caged shapes because these triads relate pretty directly to those. If you don't know your cage shapes, there are plenty of online lessons about the cage system. I also go through it in my guitar course, which I'll go into more detail about at the end of this video. The reason it's good to visualize the bigger shapes is because these triads are often included in those bigger shapes, or you can make some good connections between the triad shape and the bigger shape that will help you remember where that triad is and where your important notes are. It's great for visualization, but this is what it looks like. So here we already saw this F sharp triad as a part of this bar chord shape. Some people call this the E shape moved up, right? Next chord, D sharp minor. That's kind of part of your C shape, but the minor version of that, which is hard to play, but if you can visualize what that looks like, that's good enough. Again, a good first step is seeing your roots, so seeing that D sharp is here. That's great. The next one, C sharp major. That's part of your C shape again. The B chord. That's part of this A shape moved up. This triad is in that chord. Next one, G sharp major. It's part of your E shape again. This F sharp, part of the C shape. This B major, part of the bar chord or E shape. And then back to F sharp here. So quickly I'm going to play through the progression using those same triad voicings that we just looked at, and maybe I'll try to embellish them a little bit as I do this. So that's how I'd practice it. I would start out of time, just figuring out what the closest triad shapes are on that one set of strings, then take it into the song, start simple, and then see if you can start to embellish them a little bit or improvise around them. It's a great way to go about it. Now, I did this on one set of strings, starting on one triad in one position. You can do this in 2 other positions on that set of strings, plus every other set of strings that we haven't touched. So you really have hours and hours and hours of practice that can come out of this one exercise. And again, we're only looking at closed triads. You can do this with open triads. You can do this with 7th chords, whether it's drop 2 7th chords, drop 3 7th chords. You can do it with more complicated voicings, arpeggios. There's so much that you can get out of this type of practice, and it will all help both your visualization and your ability to improvise and make your ideas sound good and make them sound connected. I just think it's super valuable to be able to go through and do this type of practice. And if you really want to dive into this and tackle your different positions with triads, 7th chords, and other chord voicings, check out my guitar course. It's called Ultimate Chord Mastery. This is just a very small piece of what's included in there. I go through every chord related concept I know that's helped me get to where I'm at now and is still helping me improve to this day, and has helped all my students do the same. So I'll link that in the description as well. There's a discount code in there for you guys to use. Again, I think this sort of thing is super valuable. If you guys are really serious about improving at guitar, I highly recommend you check that out. Also, if you like this video, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment so I can continue making YouTube videos for you guys. Feel free to leave any questions below. Till next time.